Helen H. Sapiro, former director of spiritual formation at North Park Theological Seminary, shared the following story in The Covenant Companion. During my morning lap swim, as I followed the rhythm of lift, breathe, and kick, the words came to me with utter clarity. Be quiet, just shut up. A few more laps, and the words returned, be quiet. I begun my swim that day remembering that I had a morning appointment with a student who very likely did not want to meet with me at all. Samantha sat in the back corner of the classroom at North Park Theological Seminary, where I taught spiritual direction. Often arriving late, she sat with her arms crossed, her manner radiating hostility. Today she would meet with me for our first spiritual direction time together. Not because she chose to, but because it was required as part of the class. Recalling this meeting with some dread, I again heard the words, be quiet. An hour later I was sitting across from Samantha and decided to follow what seemed to be clear instruction to say nothing. I simply admitted, I really know nothing about you, Samantha. Tell me about yourself. That's almost all I said for the next hour. In the time that followed my opening question, Samantha told me about living in the Bronzeville neighborhood on the south side of Chicago. She talked about the kids on the street corners she befriended and her efforts to make friends with them. She told me about raising her family in the neighborhood and some of the pitfalls and threats that seemed to face her every day. Then, after a moment of more silence, she told me about her own growing up years and her abusive stepfather and her stormy relationship with a mother who did not protect Samantha from her husband's sexual advances. At one point, I just sighed out the words, wow, that sounds so hard. She simply nodded. Then Samantha told me about her husband, who she loved deeply, and the marriage ministry they shared together with couples whose marriages were struggling. I heard too about the gift of her faith and how her relationship with Jesus sustained her through all that had happened in her past and all she was experiencing right now in her life. I smiled as this story of hope unfolded out of such difficult circumstances. When I told her our time together was nearly over, Samantha asked if she could pray. After praying, she looked up to me and said, well, that was not nearly as bad as I had expected. I asked if I could give her a hug, knowing that a barrier had broken down between us. I wondered how long it had been since she had told her story to someone else. I knew I felt honored and privileged to be her listener that morning. From One Simple Act by Debbie McComb.